This is Gabriel, the most low-budget guardian angel with tiny wings. Every day, he does the same job, stopping people from texting while driving just in time to save their lives. The routine never changes, until he meets Arj, an aspiring documentary filmmaker. Despite working multiple jobs, he stays broke and faces constant rejection from every opportunity that could change his life. Today is no different. Another rejection lands in his inbox. While driving, he replies to the message saying he's officially given up on life. Gabriel reads the message and intervenes, stopping Arj from crashing. But this time, something feels different. He finds himself worrying about Arj's mental health. The rest of Arj's day goes from bad to worse. At one job, he's stuck in a long bakery line, not for himself, but for wealthy clients. That's how he gets paid. 2 hours later, the clerk announces there are no burgers left. Arj calls the client, promises there will be no charge, and politely asks them not to cancel the task since he's already waited for hours and that's how he'll get paid. Unfortunately, the client cancels anyway. To make matters worse, Arj finds out most of the burgers were bought by Jeff, who didn't have to wait in line because he's a rich investor in the bakery. Next, Arj goes to another client's house to do laundry, where a rude kid keeps asking why he's washing clothes instead of using his college degree. This pushes Arj over the edge. He tells the kid he has no future after college, which earns Arj a glowing bad review on the app. The day drags on with more chores, assembling a desk, restocking shelves at a hardware store, while Gabriel silently watches the entire time. During lunch at the hardware store, Arj meets Elena. She's trying to start a labor union to improve working conditions, but Arj doesn't care because he's just a freelancer and he's convinced things never improve. Later that evening, he runs into Elena again at a taco stand. They end up having dinner together. While eating, Arj tells Elena about his dream of becoming a documentarian, and she's genuinely supportive. It's one of the few bright spots in an otherwise bleak day. After dinner, Arj retreats to a store parking lot to spend the night in his car. His father calls and Arj pretends he has an apartment while showing fake interest in hearing about his cousin's success. After all the stress, Arj has trouble sleeping, so he plays a sleep assistant podcast. But the ads keep interrupting because he can't afford a subscription. Meanwhile, Gabriel attends a celestial staff meeting. Other angels share stories of saving people from tsunamis, preventing deadly falls, and guiding lost souls to rediscover meaning in life. Gabriel listens, growing quietly envious. He asks his boss, Martha, for a real assignment, something meaningful, but she turns him down. Martha tells him he isn't ready with his tiny wings and should focus on his current duties. Back on Earth, Arj's life continues to spiral. One night, a guard finds him sleeping in the parking lot and immediately kicks him out. The next day, he heads to the local gym for a shower, where he frequently runs into Leonard, a homeless man. While Arj talks to Leonard, Gabriel quietly watches, even in the bathroom. Personal space isn't really a thing for this angel. One day, Arj gets a job on the app. The client is Jeff, the same rich investor from the bakery. Arj's task is to clean Jeff's garage. He works fast and does a good job. Jeff is impressed and promises him a 5-star rating. While they talk, Jeff mentions that he needs an assistant. Arj takes a chance and asks if he can do it. Jeff agrees to a 1-week trial. As the days go by, Jeff likes how Arj works. He hires him properly and gives him a credit card for expenses. For the first time, Arj can afford to sleep in a motel instead of his car. The next day, Jeff tells Arj that he keeps a gun in the house for emergencies and gives him the password to the drawer. While they talk, Arj asks Jeff if it's okay for him to go out on a date. Jeff approves. Seeing Arj's worn-out shirt, Jeff lends him a jacket for his date with Elena and suggests he take her to a restaurant he calls cheap. The date starts well, but when Arj sees the menu, his face goes pale. The prices are far higher than he expected. Arj doesn't want to look poor in front of Elena, so he dines there anyway. When the bill comes, she offers to split it, but Arj insists on paying. He secretly uses Jeff's credit card. Arj knows it's a bad idea. He does it anyway. The next morning brings consequences. Jeff asks about the dinner bill. Arj explains, apologizes, and promises to pay him back, but Jeff doesn't care. He fires Arj immediately. Just like that, Arj loses everything again. No job, no motel, no tasks on the app. With no other option, Arj sells his blood for money. Weak and exhausted, he falls asleep in a restaurant and gets kicked out. Outside, he discovers his car has been towed. Gabriel, watching from above, realizes Arj is truly lost. Even though he was told not to interfere, Gabriel appears in front of Arj, who panics. Gabriel calmly tells him he knows everything about his life and that there is still something to live for. Then he shows Arj a vision of his future. Long delivery shifts, living with Elena at her mother's house, barely scraping by. Their dog gets sick and they cannot afford surgery, so they have to put it down. When the vision ends, Arj snaps. He yells at Gabriel, saying that kind of life is definitely not something worth hoping for. Gabriel admits that giving hope isn't really his job. Then Arj tells him what he wants, a rich, stress-free life like Jeff's. So Gabriel decides to teach him a lesson. He wants to show Arj that being rich isn't as great as it looks. In the next scene, Arj wakes up in a luxury car in a parking lot. The same guard who once kicked him out is now polite and understanding. The car's computer asks if he wants to go home and shows him the route. The next morning, Arj arrives at Jeff's house, still confused. Jeff approaches, wearing Arj's clothes, and says he's done with his chores. Confused, Arj asks whose house this is. Jeff tells him, "It's yours." As Arj walks through the house, he sees framed photos of himself everywhere. Gabriel appears and explains what he's done. He swapped Arj's life with Jeff's. In 1 week, he will return to see if Arj has learned his lesson, and then switch them back. But really, who in their right mind would want to go back to being poor? As the days pass, Arj enjoys his new life. He spends money freely and lets Jeff handle the work. His job now is eating at fancy restaurants and making a few simple decisions for the company. Gabriel shows up every day trying to nudge Arj toward wanting his old life back, but it doesn't work. Later, Arj meets Elena again. She doesn't know him in this reality, but their connection feels the same. They go on a date at the same restaurant as before. This time, the waitress treats them nicely, and dinner is even free because of Arj's new status. After dinner, Arj and Elena share a kiss. Watching from the sidelines, Gabriel starts to realize how dumb his plan is and fears it might backfire. When the week ends, Gabriel asks Arj if he wants his old life back. Arj doesn't hesitate. He says no. For a moment, Arj fears Gabriel might force him to switch back, but Gabriel admits he doesn't have that power. Everything can only be undone if Arj agrees. That night, he comes clean to Martha about what he's done. Gabriel was meant to guide Elena, but instead, he switched Arj's life with Jeff's, making Martha furious. As punishment, she strips him of his tiny wings. The next day, Arj is throwing a pool party, enjoying his new life. Gabriel shows up, clearly frustrated, and says the situation isn't fair to Jeff. He touches Jeff, causing all of his memories to rush back at once. Jeff panics and collapses. The guests think Jeff is dead and leave immediately. Later, Jeff confronts Arj. The argument gets heated. Jeff begs for his life back and offers him $200,000 as thanks. Arj laughs it off and tells him that kind of money barely covers the cost of one of his watches. Their argument is interrupted by Gabriel, who explains that this entire experience belongs to Arj, and once things are reset, Jeff won't remember any of it. After more arguing, Arj agrees to switch back, but only after a few more days of enjoying the good life. Jeff accepts the deal. He asks Arj for help, but Arj tells him this is his chance to feel what being poor is really like. Jeff insists he can rebuild everything through hard work, unaware of what's ahead. With his tiny wings gone, Gabriel has nowhere to stay. He asks Jeff if he can crash with him, and the two end up sharing a cramped motel room, and even the same bed. Later that night, Jeff gets curious and asks Gabriel if he can fly. Gabriel admits he can't. His tiny wings were never strong enough. Only high-ranking angels with bigger wings get that privilege. The next morning, the motel manager says they need to leave because their payment is due. Jeff somehow convinces her to let them stay and promises to bring the money in the evening. With no other choice, Jeff starts taking delivery jobs through an app, with Gabriel following him around. Very quickly, Jeff realizes how hard life is on the other side. Customers treat him badly, barely tip, and blame him for mistakes that aren't his fault. He waits in long lines just to earn almost nothing. Drivers get angry at him for slowing traffic, and many restaurants have replaced delivery workers with robots. By the end of the day, Jeff is shocked to learn the app pays weekly.
No, I don't get paid till the end of the week.
They don't have enough money to stay at the motel, so they sleep in the car. Meanwhile, Arj invites Elena to Paris, expecting her to drop everything and come along, but she refuses. She explains that she has responsibilities with the labor union, and that while he can escape whenever he wants, she's still a worker, fighting for a better life. When Arj fails to understand, she walks away. Feeling very depressed, Arj goes for a drive and starts texting while driving, which causes an accident and leaves him in a coma. Soon, Gabriel hears the news from another angel and informs Jeff that he'll have to be poor for a few more days, since Arj can't consent while in a coma. Jeff freaks out and begs Gabriel to ask another angel for help. Later, Gabriel goes to Martha. She decides the situation has gone too far and fires him completely, forcing him to live as a human. She adds that she may reconsider restoring him, only if Arj agrees to reset everything. Immediately, Gabriel begins to change. He starts sweating and feeling hunger for the first time.
Stomach feels strange.
Later, Jeff takes him to a fast food restaurant. Gabriel struggles to understand how eating works. When he finally tastes chicken nuggets and a milkshake, he's overwhelmed with joy. After eating, Jeff tells him he has a plan that could make them lots of money. The next day, Jeff visits one of his companies, hoping for a job by sharing ideas no one else knows except him. But he gets kicked out without anyone listening. Weeks later, Jeff tells Gabriel he has applied for hundreds of jobs, yet not a single company has called him back. Meanwhile, Gabriel barely listens. He's busy watching videos of baby elephants.
But I also want to look at photos of baby elephants.
Frustrated, Jeff tells him he can no longer pay the bills, and Gabriel must get a job too. Soon, Gabriel is washing dishes in a restaurant. When he receives his first paycheck, he panics. Taxes take a large portion, and what's left isn't enough to survive. Disappointed, Gabriel admits he thought one job would be enough to live comfortably. A co-worker named Felipe tells him otherwise. He explains that most people need multiple jobs, then admits he works 3. Gabriel listens quietly. For the first time, he begins to understand the world he's been watching from above. At the hospital, Arj finally wakes up. A nurse tells him that Jeff and Gabriel have checked on him several times. Not wanting to go back to his old life, Arj asks a few questions about coma side effects and comes up with a plan. He will pretend he's lost his memory. That night, Jeff gets a delivery request to his old house and gets excited. Arj must be awake. When Jeff arrives, Arj acts confused and claims he doesn't recognize him, blaming memory loss from the accident. To sell the lie, he even hands Jeff a small booklet as proof. Later, Jeff tells Gabriel everything that happened. Gabriel, now frustrated and sick of human life, has started smoking. Wait a minute, he's only lived as a human for a week, yet he already feels hopeless, while real people survive far worse lives and still manage to smile. Back to the story. Jeff keeps begging for help until Gabriel gets an idea. He was originally meant to guide Elena, so maybe if he helps her now, Arj will feel the effects too. The next day, in the hardware store break room, a chubby employee snaps. Tired of Elena constantly talking about starting a union, Elena stands her ground, calling out how the boss treats them badly and barely pays them. She urges everyone to finally do something about it. Out of nowhere, Gabriel appears, backing up everything Elena says, then completely ruins the moment by ranting about how good chicken nuggets and milkshakes are.
Stuff. Like chicken nuggies and milkshakes.
Before Gabriel even blinks, he gets kicked out. Eventually, the employees hold a vote on forming a union, but most of them vote against it. The result hits Elena hard. Gabriel watches her ride the bus afterward, sitting in silence, disappointment written all over her face. Seeing that sadness, and knowing he can't do anything to fix it, drives him to start drinking. Felipe later spots Gabriel alone on the street with a bottle and drags him to a club, hoping to lift his spirits. While they're dancing, Gabriel collides with a woman he instantly recognizes, one of the drivers he once saved. Felipe explains that she's his wife, and watching the couple laugh together reminds Gabriel that his work, however small it seems, truly matters. Elsewhere, Jeff receives a message from the delivery app. Starting next week, human drivers will be replaced by robots. On top of that, his low rating gets his account shut down completely. Enraged, Jeff curses the app, the company, and the entire system. When Gabriel finds him, Jeff unloads his frustration, admitting everything feels broken and he doesn't know how to keep going like this. To add to his frustration, the police show up and tow Jeff's car over unpaid parking tickets. Out of money and options, Jeff sneaks back into his old house, planning to take one of his expensive watches just to survive. At the same time, Arj is throwing a birthday party that was originally meant for Jeff. He basks in the attention and even mimics Jeff's routine dance moves. As Jeff moves quietly through the house, Gabriel notices Leonard, the homeless guy, is there too, and he doesn't look poor anymore. Later that night, Arj runs into Elena, now working as a waitress. He tries to talk to her, but she brushes him off, saying she's busy. The rejection stings more than he expects, and he retreats to the balcony. Leonard eventually joins him, and Arj begins to open up. He admits that Elena seems uninterested because he's rich and that living a stolen life feels wrong. Leonard shrugs, pointing out that most wealthy people took something to get where they are. But Arj is different. He used his money to help others, giving Leonard an apartment, food, and clothes. Leonard adds that rich people usually don't even talk to someone like him. While the party continues, Gabriel is busy having his own version of a party with a woman. By the end of the night, Arj manages to convince Elena to dance. Afterward, she opens up, admitting she lost her apartment and is now sleeping in her cousin's car. She confesses that running away to Paris would have been easier than fighting for the Union, but she still refuses to leave because standing by struggling people matters more to her than going on a trip to Paris. Once the guests clear out, Jeff opens the familiar drawer, the password unchanged, and grabs a watch. As he tries to leave, Arj mistakes him for an intruder and opens fire. Jeff collapses, screaming as the bullet rips into his arm. Shaken, Arj rushes over, repeating that this is exactly what Jeff told him to do in an emergency. In that moment, Jeff understands the truth. Arj was never really suffering from memory loss. At the hospital the next day, Arj apologizes and begs Gabriel to undo everything. Gabriel explains that real change can't come from guilt alone. It only happens when Arj truly believes his own life is worth living. Jeff scoffs, saying no one gets excited about being poor. After thinking it over, Arj invites both Jeff and Gabriel to stay with him. For a brief stretch of time, the three share meals and conversations. Soon after, Martha appears to check on Gabriel. He admits he doesn't understand how he's supposed to give hope to people whose lives are so painful. Martha tells him that sometimes a lost soul doesn't need an angel. They need another human being. Before Gabriel can fully grasp it, she disappears. Later, the men head out for tacos, where Arj runs into Elena again. She explains that she and her coworkers are planning to try once more, having accepted that change is slow and setbacks are inevitable. When she asks where to go next, Gabriel leads everyone back to the club. After dancing for a while, Gabriel steps outside, still feeling like a failure. Arj follows him and tells him not to give up. Gabriel points out that Arj gave up too, that they're both stuck, with no clear future and nowhere to belong. Still, Gabriel admits that being human taught him things he never expected to enjoy: eating, dancing, and making friends. That's when Arj realizes something important. The people around him only care about his money. He admits he wants a future he builds himself, not one he stole, and that Gabriel is the best angel he could have had. Gabriel smiles and places a hand on Arj's shoulder. When Arj blinks, he's back on the night his car was towed. Jeff wakes up in his old life as well, finding a parking ticket Arj once received while working for him. Later, Arj learns that Jeff has already paid off all his debts. Arj finally tells his father the truth about his situation, and his father responds with support, casually adding that the successful cousin was caught evading taxes. At the next company meeting, Jeff announces higher wages and better benefits for app workers. He rejects robots and AI outright, making it clear that anyone who disagrees can leave. Arj briefly returns to delivery work, just as Gabriel once showed him, but he refuses that future. He quits publicly, leaving a message on the board that inspires others to walk away too. At last, Arj pursues his real dream, creating a documentary about gig workers. He continues seeing Elena, and one quiet night, after eating tacos, he leaves one sitting on the table for Gabriel.